There is no doubt that one of the most appealing jobs out there in this NFL offseason for head coaching candidates had to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. It just had to be. You're talking about a team that you're coming in with really no expectations whatsoever. You've got the number one overall pick in the draft and a second first rounder as well when you look at the Rams from the Jalen Ramsey deal. So you've got plenty of draft pick capital and some really nice premium marquee draft pick capital at that. You've got a good chunk of salary cap space. And honestly, you're in Florida, no state income tax. You're in an organization where, again, the bar is really low, the expectations are really low, and you come in, and if you do anything well at all, you're going to look like a borderline genius. Like if I'm a head coaching candidate and I'm looking at different jobs out there, like that's a job. That's a job that has an incredible amount of appeal to it. It has to. You're not worried about depleted draft pick capital. You're not worried about you come in and you got all these salary cap constraints. You know, you're coming in, all that, low expectations. So if you do anything, you look really good. Like really a good situation from that standpoint. It sets you up potentially for a lot of success. So I'm not surprised that this job had a lot of appeal to Urban Meyer. And frankly, I'm not surprised that Jacksonville was interested in Urban Meyer. Because kind of their thought being, well, we've went down the coordinator path with Gus Bradley. That didn't really work. And we went down the recycled NFL head coach path when we promoted and kept Doug Marrone all those years. You know, they're an organization that desperately needs some sizzle. They need some life. They need some energy. They need some star power. And there is no question that Urban Meyer brings that. And if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars organization that is looking to create a culture, that is looking to have leadership, that knows what it takes to win it at least some level, well, you could debate what type of culture Urban Meyer created when he was at Florida and Ohio State, but there is no doubting his resume whatsoever at the college level. And even when you go back before Florida, remember his time at Utah? He was only the head guy there, I think, for 2 seasons. Remember that great Utah team in 2004 that went undefeated, that was quarterbacked by Alex Smith? Like, that's where Urban Meyer really announced, I think, to the world that he was going to be a major star in terms of the head coaching ranks. And when Florida got him, it was a big and significant move. And it paid off in a big way. He spent 6 seasons there. They won 2 national championships, if I remember correctly, 2006, 2008. Then, eventually, he's got a need for time off, health issues, whatever, takes a year off, gets the job at Ohio State. And in a couple of years, he's taken them to a national championship and bringing them back to national big-time, big-stage prominence. So this is a guy that did it not just at one place, but at multiple places. And that matters. That absolutely matters when you're trying to find a guy with a history of creating a culture and turning things around and building a winner. He's done that. But I still find it really interesting that Jacksonville went down this path for this guy at this moment in time. And they better hope to God that this works. Because, man, oh man, there's a lot of risk there. As far as the thing of, well, you got to be careful promoting these or hiring these college head coaches because it doesn't automatically translate to the NFL. And that is absolutely true. For every Jimmy Johnson that you have a Dennis Erickson who flopped as an NFL head coach. And he was a great college head coach. Steve Spurrier was a fantastic college coach. He got to the league and he absolutely sucked. But then you also have a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who was a college head coach first at Stanford. And when he was hired by the 49ers, in a few years, they were a contender and made it to the Super Bowl. So you could certainly point to big name, notable misses in terms of college head coaches that got jobs in the NFL, and it didn't really work out. The Ron Myers of the world, going back even before that, a Bud Wilkinson, a John McKay, certainly didn't have the type of success that they had enjoyed at Oklahoma and USC back in the day, respectively. But that doesn't automatically mean that these guys can't work. That doesn't automatically mean that they're not good for the job. I just find it interesting that they're putting a lot of stock and a lot of faith in Urban Meyer because he has a history of kind of that Larry Brown's disease, as I would call it, is that he gets to a spot, he turns them around, and then a few years later he gets ants in his pants, he gets old, he gets bored, and or he's rubbed everybody the wrong frickin' way, both players and organizational leadership alike, and he's out the door for one reason or another. And to me, when you make a move like this, when you're going out to hire a head coach for the situation that Jacksonville is in, I would think that you're wanting to hire a head coach thinking about the next 10, 15, 20 years. Like, you want this move to go right. You want this move to work out so you can have a really, truly long-term answer at that position. But when we're talking about Urban Meyer, you're probably talking more about a 3 to 5 year type of plan, realistically. I mean, he's still a young guy, relatively speaking. He's only in his mid-50s, but he has had some health issues. He has a history of bailing on high-profile jobs and taking time off. And it would cause me a bit of a concern. Now, maybe the fact that he's taken a couple of years away after leaving Ohio State, like maybe this isn't so bad. He doesn't have to worry about NCAA breathing down his neck or anything like that, so maybe that's not so bad. But it's risky. It's inherently risky. And then I also look at, when you talk about Urban Meyer, will his offense really translate to the league? Will his style really translate to the league? We can all have our preconceived notions about whether or not it will, but the reality is we just don't know. And when you look at an Urban Meyer and you look at his history and his track record, and you look specifically at the quarterback position, which is going to be of significant, pivotal, critical importance for the Jaguars, especially considering they're going to be drafting a quarterback number 1 overall, whether that's Trevor Lawrence or somebody else. Somebody at the quarterback position is going to be the number 1 overall pick. Is Urban Meyer really the right guy to bring in to work with that young quarterback? Because as important as it is for Urban Meyer to succeed, it is even more important for the Jaguars that this number 1 pick that they make that will be a quarterback is the guy for the next 15 years, which means overwhelming odds are he will be involved with the organization if he works out a lot longer than Urban Meyer would. So I would think, if anything, the more important thing is to get the quarterback right and do everything you can to make sure the quarterback works out versus getting the big name, sizzle, sexy type of head coaching hire. That's just me. Like, how well would a Trevor Lawrence work in Urban Meyer's system? If you're going to say, well, maybe then he would take a Justin Fields, well, then that brings up the question of, for so many years at Ohio State, who the hell did Urban Meyer produce as a quarterback that went on to do anything in the National Football League at all? Braxton Miller was converted to wide receiver in the league. J.T. Barrett didn't do anything. Cardell Jones didn't do anything. Like, do I need to go on and on? Go back to his Florida days with guys like Chris Leak and Tim Tebow. Like, seriously. That's not the best track record or resume of saying, hey, he's worked with young quarterbacks and developed them and helped get the most out of them. He has at the college level, but it hasn't translated to the NFL. And now you're putting the entire stake of the future of your franchise around a guy who doesn't have a great track record of developing NFL quarterbacks. Like, you would argue the most successful NFL quarterback he had by far goes all the way back to Utah, and that was Alex Smith. And he's been a good but not spectacular NFL starter for years. I mean, he's been a good player. But that's the best that he's done. And he's been in the game for a long time. That would concern me. That would worry me. Like, is the quarterback that you're going to take going to fit into Urban Meyer's system? Or is he going to have the ability to flex and adjust what his philosophy and his system is to that quarterback? Like, that's what concerns me about this. It also concerns me, like, what happens initially based off of Urban Meyer's history if things don't go well initially. Are you talking about a Nick Saban, Bobby Petrino type of situation where the guys can't wait to get the first trip out of town and they're just using the NFL ultimately to get leverage to get a more secure college job in the long term? Again, I think these are valid, legitimate concerns. And I also wonder just how much patience that Urban Meyer is going to have for this Jacksonville situation, because it's really bad. Yes, you've got a ton of cap space. Yes, you've got plenty of draft pick capital and premium draft pick capital in this upcoming draft, but you've got a ton of holes. You got holes all over the place, offensively, defensively. You have a couple of pieces to work with on offense. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, Robinson. So the talent cupboard is not entirely bare on the offensive side of the ball, but that defense needs to be totally remade and overhauled. And that offense, yes, still needs work. Like, is Urban Meyer going to be the type of guy is going to have a lot of patience to go through some of those growing pains as you build up that team? I don't know. And then I also have some concerns about the fact of you've hired Urban Meyer without having an officially announced general manager in place, and I just don't really like that. Like, to me, you have hierarchies and infrastructure in place for a reason. And generally speaking, you should hire a general manager who then hires the head coach. Which to then, if you said, as a couple of you on Twitter had pointed out to me, that Trent Baalke was serving as the interim general manager once David Caldwell's bum ass was fired, and makes you think, oh my God, Trent Baalke was involved in this decision. Oh my God, Trent Baalke could be the next general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yikes. Ask 49ers fans how that went at the end. Ew. Now maybe he learned. Maybe he's grown. Maybe he's improved his interpersonal skills. Maybe he'll do better to not piss off his head coach. But, that, again, is another red flag. So this is a sizzle hire for an organization that strongly needed some sizzle. It's the first step of an offseason that's probably going to have plenty of sizzle to it, which will all culminate with whatever quarterback they take, assuming right now it's Trevor Lawrence. Things can change, but it seems that way. Whatever quarterback they take with that first overall pick. But when you get to the meat of the matter and the substance here, wow. Like, do you really have confidence that in 3 years Urban Meyer is going to have you as a Super Bowl contender, or do you have more confidence that Urban Meyer might not last past 3 seasons in Jacksonville because he'll get fed up, he'll get irritated, he'll realize the NFL lifestyle is not for him, he'll realize that being in charge of an NFL program is much, much different than a college program where you can recruit players and you're the autocrat and you have all the control. Like, yikes. They better hope this works. Because if it doesn't work, it also could really, most importantly, cause significant damage to whatever quarterback you draft. And that would be the biggest tragedy of all for an organization that's had plenty of tragedy of bad play over the years.